I remember it like yesterday when Matt came down the stairs and said so casually with a smile, I booked a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. I thought to myself, is this real? Can we really leave our amazing careers, friends, and family? Fast forward 10 months later, after all the hard conversations, endless checklists, and heartfelt goodbyes, we were heading to the airport with one backpack each, about to set out for a multi-year adventure around the world. Filled with excitement, we had no idea what to expect, but we knew it would be a fun ride. Join us as we share what we are learning on our journey of a lifetime. This is Passport Joy Travel Talk with Nikki and Matt Javit. Hi, today is such a good day, and this is going to be a really fun episode, and it's all about just not being afraid to just ask. So Matt will talk about how he Skyped with a billionaire, met up with an online contact in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, learned how to make a wood fire pizza in Italy, and just because he simply asked, and also how he was able to help a new friend in need. Thanks again for tuning in, and please be sure to subscribe on the podcast tool that you use, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher. We personally use Overcast. But when you do subscribe, you will automatically receive each episode when it is published. And when you feel comfortable, please rate and review us as well. And we will be discussing our awesome contest at the end of this episode with some pretty cool prizes. Okay, now on to the episode. We hope you enjoy.
Okay, this segment is going to talk a little bit about getting out of your comfort zone at times and reaching out to people that can help out with just understanding new areas of the world better, or have an exciting experience, or even helping out a friend that might be traveling to a certain area as well. In my past jobs that I've talked about, I had several, but many of them are about connecting people and networks, and a lot of it's sales related. But over the years, I've had a chance to reach out, do a ton of cold calling and calling on people I didn't know, cold emailing, and just finding ways to get in front of people that never knew of me or probably didn't want to talk to me. But it's all been great, and I've applied it to my travel as well. I've had a chance to, when I had a clothing line, I got in front of some very big name athletes, guys that had huge multi-million-dollar contracts, wore my clothes for free, and I had a chance to get in front of musicians, famous musicians, and TV celebrities as well. So then I've applied this over the years to our travel experiences. So I'm going to let you know how I Skyped with a billionaire in Chiang Mai, how I've since come in contact with an amazing cryptocurrency leader in Ho Chi Minh City, and how I cooked Italian pizzas while we were in a small town in Italy, and how I connected a couple of friends to go see Oktoberfest the way it should be. So first story is an incentive award that was going to take us to Chiang Mai, Thailand for my sales initiative award for my technology company that I was working with. And so Nikki and I were going to go there in the month of March. And when I stumbled upon this connection, I was reading a book called Money Mastered the Game by Tony Robbins. It's a huge 700-page book about finance. And he essentially, what he does is he talks to 50 or so billionaires or finance leaders from around the world and took all their knowledge and built it into this amazing book that gives strategies for the common man, because he takes all these things where these guys are handling these $100 million or $100 billion in some cases hedge or funds. Then he takes those principles and philosophies and applies it to somebody that has $1,000 to invest in the market or whatnot. So I was reading this amazing book, and during the process of interviewing all these people, in the back of the book, he's got breakdowns of some of the people that were interviewed for the book. Some of them are in the book, and some of which he basically quoted them from time to time. So as I'm reading some of these bios, and this is probably the January before we're leaving in March, as I'm reading one particular bio of a billionaire, it says that the guy lives in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I just read it and I was like, you know what? How often do I get to go to Chiang Mai, Thailand? And the fact that this guy is in Chiang Mai, like, why wouldn't I reach out to him? I don't have a problem saying his name. His name's Mark Faber. I think he's a Switzerland. He's a European descent, but he now lives in Chiang Mai. And he also has an office in Hong Kong. But when I reached out to him, and he has since gotten into a little bit of trouble, but he's known for calling the doom and glooms the major crashes in the 80s, 90s, and he called the '07 one. But he's got quite a presence on a lot of the financial channels and media around the world. So I did some research, did a lot of research on the guy. And so I figured out, okay, what's my avenues to get him to respond to me? So I did the proper research, knew what buttons I can press, because this is all through email. So I knew what things that I wanted to mention in the email. And through my research, I talked about a few commonalities that we might have together. And not to mention, this guy at the time was in his late 60s, and I was in my late 30s, it would have been. So I composed this email, reread it a few times, and sent it. Basically, at a very high level, I told him that, hey, I was coming to Chiang Mai because of my performance. I probably built myself up in a way because make him want to meet me in some capacity. I talked about he has a love for nightlife and nightclubs. I talked about that a little bit and just made it sound like, hey, I just want to meet you. I want to grab a coffee if you have the time and you're in town. Less than 10 minutes later, he responds to my email. Once I had him, then I respond maybe after telling Nikki how crazy this is that I'm emailing with a billionaire, and he responded that quickly. We have a back and forth. And essentially, based on his calendar and the dates that I shared with him, I was going to be there. He was not going to be there at that time. He had already had plans to be out of town. But through a few emails back and forth, he suggested that I go to his buddy's bar. He named the bar, said I should go there and let the guy know that I knew him. And so I made note, took the notes, thanked him for his time, and just mentioned that, hey, maybe sometime in the future we could get in contact again. So through that process, sure enough, we went out to Thailand. We spent time in Bangkok, Phuket, Koh Phi Phi, did our thing, and then we ended up in Chiang Mai with the group, with the technology group for the sales incentive. There's about 50 of us that had won the award that year with our spouses. And one of the nights, Nikki and I broke away, got a tuk-tuk, broke away, found that bar, and I actually brought one of my buddies from work, and we end up at the bar with the guy. And sure enough, I go up, tell the guy who I was, or tell the guy who I knew, and get the love. And anywhere you go in the world, if you say you know somebody and you do it the right way, then you're going to get the feedback and the response you're looking for. So sure enough, that's what we got. He lined up. I think he got us maybe a round. And I can remember she had to have been probably 4'7" or 4'8" bartender. She was so tiny. We ended up taking a picture because I'm 6'5", and she served us. We had an amazing time for probably an hour and a half, just hanging out at this tiny, and I'm telling you, this is a tiny bar. To think that this billionaire goes there on a regular and just hangs out with his buddies and talks, that alone was worth the experience, because it was just so cool to think that the humbleness to be in those scenarios is kind of like how you hear Warren Buffett goes to the same cafe every day in his small town where he lives. So we're there, and sure enough, once I tell the owner and the bartender understands that I know Mark, one of the other employees comes out with a laptop in a Skype session with Mark, who was in Singapore at the time. And we begin to have a 4 or 5 minute Skype session where he's thanking me for going there. He's excited that I get to experience his bar, and basically that, and I'm telling him how cool it is, and the fact that I get to meet his friends and the people that are there and they're taking care of us. And it's a really cool experience. So I'm Skyping with a billionaire in a Chiang Mai bar, and it was mind blowing. So that was it. And what's even sillier than that experience was awesome. But I recently emailed him again, telling him that we are going to be in Hong Kong, because I know that he's got office facilities there. And sure enough, he responded to me within 20 minutes again, telling me that he was not going to be in Hong Kong at the time, but he suggested some neighborhoods and areas that we should go to in order to have a good time and to enjoy ourselves while we're there. So that, it just goes to show you that we're all the same, and we're all just looking for ways to connect. And that's one of the ways that I handle it there. Another cool scenario that you can apply as well is when we were in Vietnam, I was doing some research. I think you'll find through segments that we really enjoyed Vietnam. In a town in particular called Da Nang. It's the third largest populated city in Vietnam. We just really enjoyed it. And as we were there, I did some research just to try to dig around and figure out more about the city and how digital nomads get around there, and some of the places and cafes that they go to, and how good is the lifestyle, and the different questions you can find in forums and posts that if you can't find other expats living in places or other like coworker or digital nomad types to get work done, like the stuff that we're trying to do for our podcast or blog, and ways to connect to the internet and places to get cheap Wi-Fi or just have a co-work space. It's not always easy to get those questions answered quickly. And we only had 3 days in Da Nang. So it was a good way to get a heartbeat of the city. But at the time, we couldn't really understand how much we would enjoy it if we decided to stay there for 3 to 5 weeks or something. So I started going on these forums, and I found a guy that was extremely passionate about Ho Chi Minh City, but understanding about how cool Da Nang was. And so through the back and forth and reading his posts and seeing how articulate and educated and just his feedback was on Ho Chi Minh City, I just like, okay, Nikki and I were going to Ho Chi Minh in the next 2 weeks, and we were going to be there for 6 or 7 days. And me and this guy, through our research, we had a lot of commonalities. Poker, technology, he does a lot of design work, he loves sports, and he's originally from the States, and he's a Midwest guy. So I knew that there was a lot of stuff that outside of, hey, how's the city? There's a lot of stuff that we would touch on, be able to talk about, and just stuff that we conversate about, and I could learn from him. And he knew and does know a lot about cryptocurrencies, which has recently been a exploration for me to try to understand more and more about that space. So I just reached out to him. I just sent him a note. I did my research to understand who he was more, so I could touch on those points of commonalities that we could explore. And I just sent him a note and reached out to him. We ended up connecting on WhatsApp. And when Nikki and I arrived, I think we got there on a Tuesday or a Monday, we ended up hanging out with him and his wife for 3 of the 6 days that we were there. We went to a super cool neighborhood bar and just talked to him. And he actually had other technology buddies in town. We had a chance to meet them. One of the guys knows a ton about Japan, and Nikki and I plan to go to Japan soon. Another one of his buddies was from the Netherlands, and he was deep in the crypto space. So it was just an awesome way for us to get a chance to meet other travelers. And this guy in particular, he's been around the world and has worked around the world in many locations. So that was just a great way. And then we saw Star Wars, and we just did stuff that we probably wouldn't have had a chance to really explore Ho Chi Minh City. And his wife's native Vietnamese too. So to hear her take on her country and be able to talk about some of the things that he had experienced living there for 5 years, that we got a whole different viewpoint. We visited their condo that they had, and even went to a concert. There was a concert in town. We went to a concert and had fun that night as well. So it was just a really great time. And all it took was I found somebody that I thought could help us or could connect in some way. And I just sent a thoughtful note asking him if he had time to grab a coffee or a drink. And we ended up meeting that way. So again, if you see those things out there and those opportunities, sometimes they hit you for the right reasons at the right timing. So in the worst case, Nikki and I, she gets sick of me saying this probably, but I often say, what's the worst that could happen? Like the worst part of either one of those emails was they would look and delete, and I'm no better off. You know what I mean? I've lost nothing besides the time spent researching somebody cool. And if the billionaire never replied, nothing bad would have happened to me, nor would this great guy in Ho Chi Minh City. So another time that I kind of went outside my comfort zone a little bit was for an amazing experience when we were in Italy. So Nikki and I went on this amazing journey for about 2.5 weeks where we toured around. We rented a car in Venice and then drove around for about 2.5 weeks in northern Italy, hitting a bunch of small little towns. The reason that happened was a little backdrop of that, we ended up renting the car because we got an older gentleman. He was a world traveler from Milan, Italy, but we'd met him in Ecuador when we were working at a workaway experience in Guayaquil, Ecuador. And he was one of the guests there. And we talked to him, and I told him my plan in Italy. That was about 3 months from then. And he told me how crazy and bad how my ideas were. So I just said, okay, well, tell me what I should do. And he started talking. I was like, wait, can you pause a minute? And I got my phone to take notes, and I took all the notes down and listened to everything he said. And sure enough, the guy was dead on. He was right. He told us, because originally we had planned to be in Venice for like 8 or 9 days, which was, looking back, was crazy because not only is it's super expensive, but you can really experience it in a good 3 days. It's Venice is a beautiful city, but about 3 days is plenty to get everything that you want to get out of that city. But he told me all the other places that we'd miss if we spent just time there. So we changed our plans and made it happen. And while we were driving around on our tour in our car with these almost crazy Italian drivers, we stumbled upon a situation where we were extremely flexible on our plans, where we knew we wanted to go to some spots and see, there's some super huge mega cathedrals there. We know we wanted to go see some of these places, but we wanted to go get some beach time. We spent some time in a vineyard. We were doing all these unique trips for us in our time there. And so we were booking everything very last minute. And we stumbled upon a situation where we were caught near Loreto, Italy, where we knew we wanted to be there the next day, but we had arrived there because we were trying to find a couple of beach spots, but all the accommodations were super expensive for our budget at that time. And we were just like, okay, let's just keep driving. So we just kept driving down the beach coast, and we kept checking our phone to see if like the Airbnb prices would change, if a hostel popped up, if there were certain accommodations that fit what we were trying to get. But it was getting late. So we found one, Nikki found one. And then as we arrived there, near this town of Loreto, we go to the location and it's like boarded up, like it's closed. It's not even open. It was such a weird deal where they had an online presence that made it look like they were open, but then we arrived and they weren't open. So we were stuck, kind of hung out at 9:30 at night with nowhere to go in a pretty quiet, small Italian town. And so I used Google Maps and just started researching like places, hotels, or just started looking up things within a 5, because knowing that it's 9:30 and if it gets much later, we're going to be really in a bind. I find this place that's open and near us. And so I just call the guy with the number. And the first conversation, he hangs up quickly because I'm speaking English and he speaks no English, or extremely very little English. So I asked Nikki to pull up Google Translate in Italian, and we start typing in like common basic sentences where I'm asking the guy in Italian, can we stay there tonight? Do you have a room? And so as I call back, I read this, and Nikki's dying laughing as I'm doing this. So I'm pulling back my laughter, trying to speak broken Italian to a guy through the phone. He probably knew what I was trying to do, but it was horrible. So finally, he says in Italian, basically, that I have 5 minutes. It wasn't 5 minutos, but it was close enough to Spanish that I understood what he was saying. And I said, we got to go. Let's go jump in the car. So, and using Google Maps, we get there, arrive. And this guy's got the coolest places. It's essentially his home that he's converted into a bed and breakfast. And he's got a couple of rooms. He had 3 rooms available, 2 or 3 rooms available. But he lives there with his son and his complex family situation, but his ex-wife lives across the street, and there's big, huge guarded. I didn't realize all of this until the next day, because again, it's at this point it's 9:35, and he was walking us through the house quickly because he was going to his career job at 10 o'clock. He worked in the medical field at a hospital. So he gives us the quick tour, gets us in our room. His son shows up a little bit later. His kid's like 14 years old. He's super wiry and just a ton of fun. Speaks better English than his dad, but still not great English, but enough to understand what's going on. And we get situated and we're just like, okay, this is awesome. And with just one day in mind, I believe, but I think it ended up being 3 days because the place was so cool. Big bed, big, huge bed, big closet, just a nice place, and super homey because they had a big yard with like goats in the back, a lot of sitting area, a pool, an above ground pool, and a lot of swings, just beautiful. And then you could see like just the landscape around it was just gorgeous. And they were 20 minutes from the coast that had amazing beaches that we ended up taking in. And one of the cathedrals that we were there to visit, we could see from the distance. So it was just so extremely unique and peaceful, extremely peaceful. So the next day he comes back from his work shift. We're just lounging, probably eating the breakfast or whatever that was provided, probably drinking some coffee. And outside in his sitting area, he's got this wood-fired oven that I can't, because it's closed up, I can't tell if they use it all the time or if it's never used. And they've got like this mini kitchen next to it because there's some space there that people can visit as well. So in my using Google Translate, I tell him that I love pizza. Essentially, I keep it as simple as possible and use Google Translate. I say to him, like, basically, I love pizza. Wood-fired pizza is my favorite. And if I could learn to cook wood-fired pizza in Italy, that would be amazing. And he lights up. He's so excited. And he basically says, absolutely, let's do this. And so from there, we begin to plan and strategize, like, okay, how are we going to do this? And so the next 24 hours, we come up with a plan that it's not that big. When I say next 24 hours, it's not like we planned for 24 hours. It was the idea that we were like seeing this guy every once in a while and I would have a new idea. And so the next day he basically says, okay, the plan is for us to eat that night. He tells us, you guys get the toppings, mozzarella, tomato, sauce. And prior to my offering was, hey dude, we'll bring the wine. We got the wine covered. Just help me cook pizzas. So I said, we'll get the wine. So we ended up doubling down on the wine. I think we already had 2 bottles because we visited a vineyard we stayed at a vineyard in northern Italy. We already had 2 bottles of wine, but we got 2 more bottles because he said that there was gonna be more family coming. And we had this wine. So we got the toppings, Nikki and I, we also got some, I think, spinach and mushrooms to add to it, some fresh vegetables. And we come back, he tells me that we're going to start at 5:00. And Nikki and I we had a day planned where we're going to be at the beach that day. And he was going to, at 5:00, we're going to start with the dough and get this thing going. So Nikki and I get back at 4:45. We went to the grocery, got all the needed items, come back at 4:45. And I hadn't eaten all day long at this point, and I was hungry. And before he said, we're going to have like a big family dinner style at like 7 or 8 o'clock. We're doing big dinner. So I come back at like 4:45 and I eat a small, quick, late lunch, like beans and tomatoes, like some sort of salad type thing, thinking that I'm not going to eat again for another 3 hours or so. And I was super hungry. And we begin at 5. I go out there at 5, and I think Nikki went up to the room to handle some stuff. And I'm down there at 5 with his son, or I think it's his nephew. It was his nephew, Michael. And we just start going at it. And because Michael has a little bit of better English, I mean, his dad had no English, or his uncle had no English, but he's a little bit better English. So he's the owner. I'm going to mess up his name, but his name was Gaetano. But Michael would translate for Gaetano. And so he was telling me like, hey, prep the dough. So he's showing me how to prep the dough. So we're doing the sugar, the flour, yeast, oil, water, salt. We're throwing it all in there and we're mashing it and then just working it. And then so it takes about good 15 minutes or so to get these, what ended up being about 8 horribly looking pies, because this is me doing these things, to we about 8 of these ready, but they got to rise. So it takes time for this to happen. So we kind of just wait. And so we get all this ready. We got all the prep. And we're outside doing all this, and we got the big table. And by the way, so when we'd come back from the beach, Gaetano was just geeked up, shirt off. I mean, like a typical American barbecue. He's ready to roll. The wood-fired oven is going. He's throwing wood in there. And it's just, he's super excited and geeked up that we're going to have this awesome night together. He's got his family plan to come over. This is almost as big of a deal as him as it to me to learn how to cook real Italian awesome pizza. So we keep going. We're laying the toppings. I'm cutting up mozzarella to get it going. At about 50 minutes after this, they're getting antsy. They're like, okay, they don't want to wait for the dough to rise. So he just starts making pizzas. He's making them, mashing them, spreading the dough out, putting the sauce on top, throwing the mozzarella on there, salting it up, spreading the mozzarella, oil, a little bit of flour, bam, into the oven. It takes like 3 or 4 minutes, and then the pizza comes out. And he's like, Matt, the Italian pizza, eat the pizza. So he just starts feeding me. Eat. So, of course, I'm eating it. It's awesome. It's amazing. He's making another one. And then so he's just going through our dough, making these pizzas. And it's me, Michael, Gaetano, and his son, his wiry son. It's the 4 of us crushing these pizzas one after another. And it's at some point, I say to Michael, like, hey, is this the dinner? Or are we going to have our proper dinner? And Michael's like, no, we're going to eat later. So I'm like, oh my God. And I just ate prior. So now I'm getting like super stuffed, but he just keeps doing this. So at about little after 6, one of his local buddies comes over that runs a pizzeria. And Gaetano is just like, he is so excited because he's got a pro now. Now, not only am I going to learn, they're all going to learn from this pro. So this guy comes over and he's doing the whole, and he becomes like, he brings like 15 perfect looking dough balls that like is what you see when a major pizza chain shows a commercial. Like it looks that beautiful in his Tupperware casing. And he shows up, puts it down there. And this guy is just like taking the dough, flipping it, making it look beautiful, flipping it in the air. And Gaetano's like, oh, yeah, flip it in the air. And he's just, everybody is like excited this guy is doing his thing. So as he's doing all this, this guy's probably 30 years old or so, just a pro at what he's doing. And then the youngest kid, his name is Gabrielle. He's like, everybody is just all into this because as like a 14-year-old kid to see like a pizza pro, everybody just loves this stuff. So he starts throwing the pizzas in. So more pizzas are coming out, and this is still not the dinner. So I'm telling Nikki she's got to come down here. So she comes down and she's sitting there, and now they're making pizzas for Nikki because now they got a woman on the scene. They're excited to make pizzas for Nikki. It's kind of machoism, and this guy is like just throwing out the pizzas for Nikki, and they're like, eat, Nikki, eat. And all they keep saying is eat over and over and over. So as Nikki's eating a pizza, they're making me a pizza. So now I'm on like my 4th or 5th pizza at this point. We're just crushing these pizzas. You like the pizza? You like the pizza? We make a pizza for the Italians and the Americans. We make the pizza. So it's just like constant laughter, broken English. And then finally, I get a chance to make the pizza from start to finish. Because as people are starting to show up now, he's got other families showing up. I get to go from the dough to all the toppings to putting the pizza in the oven, pulling it out, and bang, I get to make a pizza. So all this is going on. And by the way, we're drinking wine the whole night, but I'm not getting a buzz because I'm eating so much. And we keep doing this over and over. And finally, 8 o'clock hits and family members start coming in. Now it's basically like the wine's getting poured into the glasses. There's more veggies start to come out. And prior, Nikki went to the store, we bought this spinach and these veggies. And they knew that Nikki was a vegetarian, and they knew that she didn't want to eat because pizza's a stretch for her because the cheese, and she's basically just not eating a lot of the cheese. So one of the ex-wife goes and she grills up, sautés up the spinach and garlic and just makes it, and mushrooms, and just makes this amazing like hot grilled or sautéed spinach salad. And they come out. It's huge. Like we've got enough for like 8 pizzas. So we got this huge thing of spinach. They put it all in front of Nikki and like, oh, you eat the spinach. They thought we had bought the spinach for Nikki to eat, period. And so we're like, no, this is for the toppings. Like, no, it's for Nikki. She eats the pizza. She eats the spinach. She didn't eat the pizza. She eats the spinach. So now Nikki's sitting there with this huge bowl of spinach and mushrooms, and she had already eaten a pizza. And Nikki's not a good eater. Like I'm pretty good. I think people would classify me as a pretty good eater. And Nikki is like the opposite of that. She doesn't eat much. And when she does, it's very small. She's like a nibbler all day long. So she's like, Matt, you got to eat this spinach now. So now here I am about 5-6 pizzas deep. Now I'm killing this bowl of spinach. Yeah. And they're like, oh, Nick, you don't like the spinach. So I'm like, no, she likes it. I just like it more. So I'm acting like I'm taking over her spinach bowl. So I'm crushing the spinach. They keep throwing me pizza. The whole family's there talking Italian. I'm using Google Translate for everything. And then finally they start asking us then people start prying in our background a little bit and like, what are you guys doing? We're telling them our story and they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. Oh, what's going on? And then so it's just, so at some point, this is going on to like 9:30, and they keep, it's constant eat. You got to eat. And they're throwing all these food in there. The wine's pouring. People are having a blast. And Nikki taps out. She's like, Matt, I got to go. This is not happening. I got to get out of here. And because not only the uneasiness of not eating when they're putting food in front of her, but it's just so much. So she goes to the room. I continue to eat. And so there's waves of family. So like there's like the regular family and then extended family and in-laws, like exes, like nieces of the exes. So over the night, we meet about 15 different people, but they keep coming waves. And every time there's a new wave, there's more pizzas. I don't know what my full intake was because over the night, I think we ended up making, there was the eight original. I think there's probably 23 to 25 pizzas served, and I damn near touched every one of them. I don't know, but it was a lot of pizza. But it was such an amazing time, and it all happened because we just had the courage to ask the guy, like, hey, can you teach me how to cook a pizza? And he was more excited. And I think that it's probably something that they'll always remember that night, hopefully. Or hopefully they just do it more often now because we did it and we reminded them of how awesome it is to have a wood-fired oven in your backyard to take advantage of it to bring people together. So that was an awesome experience. The other one, just don't be afraid to ask, or if you have an idea, is a short story. We had met friends. I call them friends now because they absolutely are. A couple from Munich, Germany, that were in the island Aegina. We were in this small town of Perdica, Greece, where Nikki and I did a workaway for a month there. They were there, and we met them, befriended them, had a great time, ended up spending time on the rooftop, just drinking some wine and just getting to know them, and just great people. And we're looking forward to seeing them again in the near future. But through that relationship, it's just like any other friend that we have in the world. So fast forward about a month, we're in Croatia and we meet he's a Canadian firefighter. He ends up being like a super macho Canadian guy that's won like firefighter competitions in the States. But we meet this guy as he's traveling through Croatia. I give him a compliment on his hat, and we ended up just talking a little bit, and then we grabbed the coffee and we spoke for about an hour before we had to head in our separate directions. But we exchanged information on WhatsApp or something as we were going. And he kind of gave me a high level of his next 2 or 3 months. And I told him about our next 2 or 3 months. And that was about it. And then through WhatsApp and stuff, we would just hit each other and say, hey, where are you at now? What's going on? And it comes to find out he was going to Oktoberfest in Munich, but the accommodations that he had, he wasn't so sure about. And I told him that he was going there. I said, hey, I've got people that I know there. I don't want to give them too much information. That if you got caught in a bind, I could potentially reach out to them to see if they could help you in some capacity. So thinking about our friends that we met in Greece the time prior. So sure enough, he gets there and his accommodations suck because it's Oktoberfest and can be extremely rowdy. This guy was in his mid-30s, and so he just wasn't mid-early 30s. He didn't go there. He wanted to have a good time, but he didn't want to have like an early 20-year-old type of scene, if that makes sense. So he reached out to me and said, hey, Matt, any chance that person you were talking about, if they have any extra room or even like a floor I can sleep on? So I was like, cool, dude, I'll definitely try for you. So sure enough, I reached out to my buddy in Munich, told him the situation. He trusted my opinion on the guy, and make a very long story short, they connected. My buddy in Canada slept on an extra bed. They hit it off. It was a great 3 or 4 days for both of them. No complaints, nothing weird. And it was awesome. And it was just because I took the time to think through this scenario, think about my connections, and try to help somebody out that I knew needed it. And it worked out really well for both parties. And now both my relationships with each of them has grown based on that thoughtfulness, I think. And they're both going to be friends of me in the future. So, and we're going to hopefully get to see them both on our travels in the very near future. So the reason I bring all this up is just don't be afraid to think outside the box sometimes, and really don't be afraid to just ask anybody anything, no matter how big their portfolio might be or what they might represent, because you never know where it can lead, and life is long, and the journey is awesome, and friendships are vital. So think about that as you're making, not only in your like a weekend trip or just your job or your career or whatever you're doing, but just keep that in mind when opportunities come your way. Just don't be afraid to say yes and take action.
During our travels, we use the Skyscanner app. It's a comprehensive, fast way to compare millions of flights to find you the cheapest deal. They also find hotels or car hires. When you find your flights and click to book, Skyscanner will link you through directly to the airline or travel agent and never charge you a commission, and there are no hidden fees. We love the unique price alert email that will alert you if the price of your flight goes up or down. This service is totally free of charge, and you can change your alerts or unsubscribe at any time. Matt loves Skyscanner because you can search for flights by alternative airports and dates. The app allows you to be creative and save money. Check out passportjoy.com/scan. Again, passportjoy.com/scan to learn more about Skyscanner and why we love it. We are big fans of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is the world-renowned business and life coach. Prior to leaving for our extended travel journey, we attended the Tony Robbins event. It was called Unleash the Power Within. It happened in San Jose, California. It was a 3.5-day immersive event focused on breaking through your limitations so that you can have the most extraordinary life. And the event focused on personal growth and personal goals. And as most of you know, Matt attributes most of his success to Tony and thought leaders just like Tony. And I'll admit, and up until Matt had asked me to come along with him to the Unleash the Power Within event, I had zero interest in events like this. And I'm really glad I said yes and I attended the event. The event to me was so much more than the knowledge that I gained from it. It was the energy that was there. It was palpable. And while I was there, I just felt awakened and a sense of renewal that I had never felt before. I even made a really good friend that I still talk to this day. Everything from financial freedom to health and relationships was discussed. This event had a profound effect on how I view life. The events like this are not cheap, but honestly, I just look at it as an investment in yourself. Check out passportjoy.com/Tony. Again, passportjoy.com/Tony to check out more information about events like this. And to check out more tips and tools we use during our travels, check out passportjoy.com/tools. Shame on that. So again, a shame on that is someone doing something wrong or a situation that basically just doesn't seem right. So I thought I would talk about just people being dirty, whether it's just people being dirty in general, maybe some situations that we've come across in our travels, just things that make you cringe. For those of you that know me, I guess I would be considered or described as a germaphobe. I guess I'm not an extreme germaphobe. I do shake hands, give an occasional hug, etc. I don't rock around with a bottle of hand sanitizer in my back pocket, although I probably should. And it might come as quite a surprise to those of you who do know me that these past 10 months of travel have definitely changed me a bit. I have been exposed to quite the amount of dirt, but we have definitely seen some crazy, dirty things. And so I just want to talk about some shame on that have definitely disturbed me. So one instance was as we stayed at this Airbnb that we found, and I won't name places, people, or things, but I will tell you this situation. So we were at a chef's house and it was an Airbnb. So when we get there, he has a dog, which I'm all about the dogs, love pets, love animals in general. It's not why I'm a vegan, but again, I love the animals. So we get to this house and his house is coated in dog hair. I mean, from top to bottom, coated in dog hair. And a little other fact is that his house has cockroaches in it. Now, this house is in South America, undisclosed location. So that is a normal thing that occurs where cockroaches can creep into the crevices of your home. But the thing is this guy has cooking classes in his home. So again, shame on that. I mean, I cannot go to a house and pay for a cooking class and have a cockroach just like roll over my foot and maybe an occasional dog hair land in my dish. I can't do it. I mean, I can't even try. I just can't do it. I cringe every time I had to even eat something at his house. So yeah, that's one shame on that. Another situation is we were in Chile at another Airbnb, and the situation arose where, actually it was not an Airbnb, it was a hostel. We were out of toilet paper, and I just asked our host, like, hey, we're out of toilet paper, and you can look up what the accommodation will provide to you. Like, it will normally say like toilet paper included, soap included, whatever. Well, toilet paper was definitely included. I mean, that's like your basic necessities in life. And I asked him, I said, hey, we're out of toilet paper. He said, okay, yeah, I just have to run to the store super quick and I'll get you a roll of toilet paper. I'll be back later this afternoon. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a girl. Like, I need some toilet paper. So Matt and I ran to the grocery store and I got myself a roll of toilet paper. And, that's fine. I mean, you got to do that every once in a while. And I was just thinking this person would replenish the toilet paper at a later time and I would just have a spare roll. Well, in the 3-day time that we still stayed at this hostel, he never replaced the toilet paper. He lived in this hostel with us, and he continued to use the restroom. Now, I don't know how he used the bathroom unless he was not going number 2, but he, like I said, for 3 days used this bathroom without toilet paper. And I just find that a little bit dirty and disgusting. So that's definitely a shame on that. Like, how are you using a restroom without toilet paper? And then this is my last shame on that for this dirtball session of people doing dirty, just disgusting things. And it's just people being dirty in general and just things that I found people doing travel-wise that are just grimy and gross. So dirty things people do in traveling that I've noticed that I just find appalling. Number 1, wearing no shoes in airplane bathrooms. I mean, how gross is that? I don't know if they sweep those floors, mop those floors ever in the history of those airplane bathrooms. Probably not. But I can't imagine ever not wearing my shoes in a public place, let alone an airplane bathroom. Another thing, not wearing shower shoes in a shared bathroom accommodation, such as an Airbnb or a hostel. I mean, I was at an Airbnb one time and this guy was taking a shower in a bathroom that we had to squeegee the floors because the shower sprayed, and it was like walking into a wet room, but he just walked in with bare feet and took a shower. So proud. And I don't know. I can't do that. Another thing, I'm in a shared space, not flushing the toilet. Like, I don't want to walk in and see your poop in the toilet. I've lived with Matt now for 14 plus years, and I've never even had to flush his poop. So I don't want to have to flush your poop. It's gross. Like, just, look behind you when you're done. I mean, isn't that just like a normal thing that everyone does? I don't know. And then there's things in general. Okay, we are all adults here. So like when you're in a public place, I mean, I don't know any public place, like church, a restaurant, an airplane, a mall, a school, a grocery store, a doctor's office. I don't know any public place in general. I don't know if it's just because of what I used to do for a living. I was a clinical pharmacist, and it's just ingrained in me to cover your mouth. But I feel like when we were children, we were taught this at a fairly young age. Like, use your elbow, use your sleeve of your shirt, like put your face inside your shirt, use your hand, use something. But I mean, I see adults all the time, like hacking up an actual lung, sneezing, and just not covering their mouth. I mean, I don't want to breathe in your spit droplets and contract some weird disease that I don't even know exists yet. Like, it's pretty gross. Like, cover your mouth. It's 2018. Like, just cover your mouth. And then another thing, like not washing your hands. I mean, this is so basic. It's so basic, but people don't do it. Just recently, I was in an airport lounge and I used the restroom, and I could hear someone had just finished using the restroom as well. And I mean, I caught this woman red-handed, and to top it off even worse, she was an employee of the airport lounge. And I mean, she had a uniform on. So she, finished using the restroom, flushed the toilet. She's like primping her hair in the mirror, and I did not hear water run. So she clearly didn't wash her hands. And it's like, I know you, like, I know who you are. Like, I'm going to go out and I'm not going to eat food or consume a beverage in this lounge now because you are an employee of this airline lounge and you don't wash your hands. Like, I don't know what you're touching. Like, it's so gross to me. So just like wash your hands. I'm just beyond disgusted by people's behavior. And I don't know if it's just me or if this is a general consensus, but I don't know. I mean, I think my husband agrees with me on this, but sometimes he thinks I'm a little crazy. I don't even think he wants to comment on this. Shame on that. But I am a little neurotic, but these are just basic things, people. So just be nice to the people around you. Cover your mouth, wash your hands, flush the toilet. Just do some basic things. That's it. Shame on that.
Say what? Say what?
All right. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode. It was a lot of fun. As always, you can get the show notes for each of these episodes at passportjoy.com under the podcast tab. tab. For instance, today's show notes, I've got a link in there from when Shaq wore clothing line at All-Star Weekend. And I even have a tab for the bar that I talk about that we went to in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So be sure to check those show notes out. There's a lot of value in that. Okay, let's talk about the contest. We've been talking about the contest. We have over $1,000 worth of prizes from the products that we use and love on the road. And today's prize comes from the great people at Foundation Training and Dr. Eric Goodman. I've talked about foundation training in the past. It's life-changing for me, and it's something it's really important to me because I had a major back surgery about 4 years ago. That was a big deal. I've got 2 rods in my back, a ton of discs and pins and all kinds of crazy stuff in there that put me down and out for a while. And I ended up overcoming a lot of the pain and strengthened my back big time based on foundation training. And now I can do the long hikes and the long walks we do while we travel because of it. It takes as little as 10 to 15 minutes a day, and you will see huge results. No gym equipment is needed. That's a big deal as we travel. I can do this on the floor or on yoga mats or in the park, wherever places that I find space, I can do it. And it's gotten so big globally that there's a lot of movie stars that do it. Thor actually does these exercises, and the actor that plays Thor, obviously, and professional athletes and all kinds of people are doing it. And I would say this, if you're a professional trainer, I think there's a ton of value in learning these exercises so you can teach your clients as well. Dr. Goodman is giving one of our lucky listeners the Core Elements streaming course online. It's valued at about $200, and it's a 5.5 hours of exclusive content that goes step by step through the tutorials of the exercises and the benefits of the exercises. He also told me that if the winner doesn't want the online course, he's got DVDs that he can give that person as well. So check that out. Again, go to passportjoy.com/back for more information on foundation training. All right. And you enter the contest by giving us a review on iTunes. Again, if you don't know how to do that, I got a step-by-step tutorial on the website that walks you through that. But we've already got a bunch of awesome reviews. So thank you so much for those people and their reviews. Obviously, you're entered into the contest. Okay. As always, please subscribe to the podcast. It helps us a ton. And please check out any of the other posts that we have out there that talks about our travels. And we will look forward to catching up to you next week. Thank you. Safe travels.